It is Kimber, the study abroad specialist, here with the study abroad question of the week. This week, I am answering the question whether or not you should study abroad during the spring or the autumn and which one is better. Now, with this one, it is interesting for me because in addition to obviously my graduate studies, I studied abroad throughout my entire junior year. And so I was abroad during the fall, so the autumn and the spring as well. And I went to 2 different locations. So definitely had 2 different experiences. But I know that for most people, they are trying to decide between either a fall semester or a spring semester. And so this is really going to depend on a few things. I would definitely say that one of the things I really liked about the fall, and I just wanted to point out that for me, I was doing an internship program and it was a very targeted internship in the sense of like, or I should say like maybe, I don't want to use like the word exclusive, but like it was a very specific internship group. So the internship that I was doing was the AIFS London International Internship. And so with that one, they typically only choose 20 to 25 students from the US every single semester to do that. And so it was a very small group. Now it coincided with the regular London program for AIFS that semester where, the students were just there to study, but they were not interning. And so we were on kind of a different path than the other students. We still knew them, met them and all of that. And, a lot of people roomed with those people, but they were in a different group because they were there every day studying. We were there every day interning. And so it was just a different group. But one of the things that I just kind of know in general, just through all of my, kind of education and now working in this business is that during fall semesters, that is, when a lot of people choose to do it, but it tends to be much more targeted to a lot of the more popular places. So like London, like France, like, if you're coming to the US, like New York, like wherever, because again, like that is usually when the school year starts. And so a lot of people are just getting going with their academics for that particular year, but they tend to target a lot of the bigger places. Whereas in the spring, even though a lot of people study abroad in the spring, it tends to be a little bit less. It actually sounds interesting because you would think that there would be more, but a lot of people choose to study abroad in the fall because they feel like, well, whatever it's going to be like, I'm going to get this out of the way in the fall. And then in the spring semester, I can always go home and, catch up on whatever I may have missed. Maybe you are in a situation within your studies where your school is not going to be giving you credit for what you're doing. If you are, I think that's very unfortunate. And you need to definitely get out there and figure out how you can get credit for that because you are still studying, whether they like it or not. But a lot of people are not really in that situation. But if you are, definitely think about that. But the thing about the fall is that also too, it sort of just feels like the start of school, right? And it's like, you tend to in the fall, as I was saying, like you can, kind of do things in the fall and then sort of catch up in the spring. Whereas if you're in the spring, you definitely have to have everything kind of figured out, especially if you are, and I know that it works differently in every country, but let's say, for example, you're an American student and you're going to study abroad in the spring. Before you leave, you need to make sure that you have your classes figured out for what you're going to take because that's coming up. You're going to have to choose. You are going to be in the middle of your studies when everyone is sort of figuring that out. So you're going to need to know when are the key dates to do that. You also too, let's say you are going to be interested in doing internships. You're going to need to work on that alongside your study abroad during the spring because again, most times if you're applying for a summer internship, the applications don't typically open until February or March. So again, it's right in the middle of your program. So it's going to take a little bit more legwork and tenacity if you are planning to study abroad in the spring, because there's a lot more moving parts, unless you're, a college senior or something, and then, you're kind of good once you're done. But for a lot of people, who are studying abroad in their sophomore or junior year, or maybe you're in your first or second year of uni if you're in a different country, or maybe you're in high school, like you need to think about what the moving parts are if you're going to be doing in the spring, because it's going to give you a lot less sort of bandwidth compared to the fall, where in the fall, it's like, again, you have that sort of, you feel like you're in the middle of that semester where it's like, even if everything goes bad here, which it won't, but it's like, even if, for some reason I need to catch up on something that I still have the entire spring semester, I have the entire next summer to do that. You don't have as much wiggle room in the spring. I would also just say too, like, it depends on what your personality is and what you're really into. I know that sounds really silly, but it's like, are you a fall driven person? Because if you are, and you are interested in going to a different country, you need to consider where you're going. If you're going to the fall, let's say you're an American student and you're going to study abroad in Australia in the fall, our fall is their summer. So you actually need to logically think about that. Like, is that something that you're interested in pursuing? Or would you like to say, actually, I'd rather go during the spring when that is their autumn? There's all these little things that you have to actually think about of what may be important to you. Maybe the weather is not going to be that important to you. It's very important to me. So I prefer cold weather when possible, but like what is going to be important to you? Also, too, just thinking about other things that are going to be externally happening. So in the fall, you have to consider that, you have the fall months, but then you also may be there during the holiday season or the lead up to that. So what does that mean to you? Versus in the spring, yes, we do have some holidays that are celebrated either, nationally, depending on what country you're from, or globally, but there's not as many. So for some people, they don't mind that, maybe their program is going to run from August 15th to December 15th. And that just means that, you're going to have to figure out what you're doing with Christmas very, very quickly. There's a quicker turnaround, or maybe, like there's going to be a pickup in tourism. So whatever plans you had to do travel right after your program, that may be a little bit different compared to the spring. It really just depends on what you're kind of looking for that. So I would just say that in terms of like thinking about the cost, there's actually not really a difference in the cost. The only time that you're going to find difference in cost in terms of study abroad is if you're comparing like a summer time or a Maymester, which is basically kind of 2 to 3 weeks in May that a lot of schools offer study abroad, or a lot of programs have that. That is where that cost is going to break down. But most times semester long programs, whether they be in the autumn or in the spring, are going to cost about the same. There could be some differences. Maybe, for example, if you're doing like what I did with the internship, where even though we were there in the fall and the students who were in the regular London program were there in the fall, we paid a little bit more, but that went into the fact of, we had people who were there advising us, helping us find internships, so they had to pay them. So that's where that kind of extra cost came in. But, you're not going to find that much of a difference in the cost of sort of regular semesters compared to if you're doing the summer. Typically summer programs are a little bit cheaper because, again, you're there for less time and you are typically doing something that is a little bit more focused. And so that is why they just cost less money, because it's less time and less kind of needing to sort of plan out everything for the next, 12, 15 weeks, however long it is. So I would just say that I think that if you consider, what is going to kind of be important to you in terms of your actual planning, because again, you are hopefully going to be sitting down as well with your college advisor and looking through what your goals are. So maybe right now you are in a point where you want to study abroad, but you're just trying to knock out electives. That is perfect. Maybe you have the option of studying abroad either semester, it doesn't matter. But if you are someone who has core classes to still finish, maybe the fall semester is going to be good for you, because again, you don't want to leave it to chance of, what might happen in the spring. Again, like I would say that unfortunately, maybe there were some students like that, who they were trying to finish like their core academic classes in spring 2020, and that did not work out, not how they thought. And so you definitely don't want to get into that situation of, I always recommend to students, if you have elective credits that you're working on, do it however you want to do, because again, like with electives, some of them may be sort of, even though they're electives, you may need some of them to get to those extra, points to graduate. But again, you feel a little bit more relaxed when you're doing electives. But if you have core work that you're doing for your degree, you may want to just stick to doing study abroad in the fall. So then that way it's like you can definitely make sure that you are back on campus in the spring, or even if you have to work during the summer as well to get those core classes done. At least you've gotten a chance to study abroad, but you also know that you have that guarantee there of, having the chance to get those core academics out of the way. So I hope that this was helpful for you. This is something that I started doing a couple weeks ago, and I think every week, I know that, my regular videos seem like a question of the week, but now that I am, really on Instagram a lot, if you have not followed me on Instagram, please follow me at Kimber Grayson. Also, too, I am on Pinterest and I am on Facebook. So you can definitely always reach out to me there, ask me different questions. But these are typically questions that I get either asked a lot or things that I see a lot, let's say on other channels that I follow that are doing, study abroad content or semester abroad content that I really just wanted to put out there and answer, because, we're all just trying to make sure that you get the information. So definitely please follow me on those platforms. If you have not already, please subscribe to this channel as well. Please like this video. Please share this video so that other people who are interested in study abroad can get this information. And I will see you very soon.